Reports suggest France is backing away from its commitment to intervene more forcefully to stop small boats crossing, and it follows the news one migrant deported under the one-in, one-out scheme returned to the UK on another small boat. So, should the UK government ask for a refund on the £500 million it pledged to the country to help smash the gangs?
Well, joining us to debate is former Conservative advisor James Price, who says yes, France isn't keeping its side of the deal, and Steve Valdez-Symonds from Amnesty International UK, who says no, this is distracting from the real crisis. Right, we'll come to you in a bit, Steve. But, James, let's ask you first of all, France isn't keeping its side of the deal. Do we have the right, should we, be getting our money back?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that if you're any individual, any business, any TV show, any government goes into an agreement with another party for money for goods or services, you should expect to get that or you get a refund. That would happen if you go to a shop, you build a house, you don't get any of that kind of stuff. If the French aren't keeping up their end of the bargain, why should they be allowed to keep that money? That's money that would either be used to keep our borders safe or could be spent on hospitals or schools or whatever it is that people at home most care about. It seems ludicrous to suggest that if they get all this money, they don't do anything for it.
This is supposed to be a deal which allowed France and the UK to tackle the problem together. What's wrong with asking our money back if we're not getting the support?
Well, just on the money, although I do think it's a distraction, the answer to that is to go and look at what the deal actually says. If in any of the situations that James mentioned, you'd look at the contract. If you go and look at what the contract says, it says nothing of this at all. France said it would look at to see whether it could revise its laws into the future. It's looked, at the moment, what is being said, quite rightly, in my opinion, it would be too dangerous to be doing the sorts of things the UK would like France to do into the future. But there's no money to ask back, and quite frankly, what should be done is to look at the real circumstances of the people who still are driven to these dangerous journeys and attend to those rather than these stupid political spats that distract from that. OK,
well, yesterday, it was all over the front pages, many people discussing it, including on this show. We had an incident of a migrant who'd come by small boats, been rejected to stay in the UK, sent back to France on a one-in, one-out deal that we have, and was there in Paris being held, left Paris and came back again. So it might be a distraction, but the distraction appears to be evidence that it's not working.
The arrangements that the UK and France have been engaged in, just trying to stop boats, have never worked. Many people have made multiple attempts at journeys to make the crossing over the last many years, ever since Sajid Javid made such an issue of this. And the reason is that the needs of people...
I mean, let's just get the numbers, right? Ministers, be clear. Arrivals by small boats this year already stand at 36,954. That's higher than the whole of 2024.
Well, and since the issue began, when people started crossing over in 2018, more than twice as many people have crossed over by small boat than we have regular members of the British Army, just to put it into context of this here. And these are people, we don't know anything about them. They may all be wonderful people. They may not be. There are lots of cases we're seeing where things are going wrong. We don't know. This cannot be a sensible way of doing it. And yesterday we had someone from the Immigration Services Union come and say these people very dangerous and violent against French police on the beaches there. Well, if that's the case, why on earth are we having them coming into this country and housing them in residential areas?
Just help us with that. You know, one of the things that I think is really difficult is that I listen to what Amnesty says, and a lot of the messaging is clear, which is, you know, people don't put themselves on the water. They say don't put their children on the water unless the water is safer than the land. That sort of thing is said. And yet, you look at the people who come and you look at the success of reform, and that's clearly not what is happening. So help us sort of understand the position of Amnesty. Is it just an open border policy, or do you believe that there needs to be, as is being clear, curbs on immigration at all?
Amnesty is not a no-borders organisation. Why? Because international law allows states to manage their borders. That is subject to the right of people fleeing persecution to cross those borders to seek asylum. So we ought to have an effective system, as we ought to demand of other countries, to receive people into our systems to determine their rights.
OK.
The problem is simply just trying to push people back.
People who are fleeing trauma should be allowed to come in. But when you have instances of people who are crossing from France, sent back and crossing from France, which I think Paris in anybody's book is not a place of persecution, it's a place of safety. What is your remedy for that, if it's not this?
Frankly, go and look at the real circumstances of the people who are driven into making these crosses. They are not safe. And it is not helping.
You're not safe in somewhere like France?
They're not safe in France. I've been to France. I've seen the miserable and violent conditions in which people are living. So, of course, if the UK wants to address that, it can, as it did 20 years ago, make an arrangement with France to receive some of the people.
Does that mean we have to take everybody from France, all 60 million Frenchmen as well, if it's so bad? I think people at home would find this ludicrous, this idea they're in a perfectly safe country. They're not claiming asylum there because they know they get much more generous benefits when they're in the UK.
It's utterly ludicrous, frankly, James, to make suggestions like that. France receives into its asylum system many more people than do we do, and has done for absolute years. And the fact that we don't share our responsibilities is a large reason why smugglers are so much profiting by our failure to do so.
The debate continues, and we have the Minister on. There may be time to put some of that to him, but between now and then, thank you both.